What's going on, everybody? Welcome to LakerCentral. I'm Alex. That is Vinay. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the pre and post game content. Also, subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, wherever you prefer to get your podcast. So, we just witnessed a bit of a thriller at the end, man. Lakers lost 106 107. They were shooting pretty bad all game. Free throws weren't going down, threes weren't going in. It looked like they were going to lose this one and Philly was going to run away, but they fought back. They absolutely
hmm
fought back the last 4 or 5 minutes of this game, and they took the lead. And Tobias just look. I was standing up watching this game, and I said Caruso's too short to be on Tobias. Like that, like
Yeah.
that was going to be an issue. And then no timeouts to advance the ball and have a good look at the basket. But they fought back, so that made me feel better about tonight, man. But what did you see?
No, I was gonna say I would say that was probably consistent with what I saw too as well. The pace of the game was, ass. That's the only way I can describe what it was. It felt like every single time the Lakers made a good defensive play, they fouled. And some of it was a foul, and some of it was just kind of
Right.
nonsense, which the refs eventually got a hold of after the first game. They're like, all right, you guys need to cut out. Like Embiid was trying to draw like foul bait the entire time, the entire game. Even the last 4 minutes, 3 minutes of the game, that play where the ball turns over, and I think Anthony Davis went to go save it, but then KCP was right next to him, so they had
Yeah.
nobody to pass it to, so it ended up going back. Like that play, like he tried to foul bait. He tried to swing up and try to draw a foul on a jump shot attempt against AD, which would have ended up being a turnover if they hadn't tipped it away or whatever. But that was a crazy comeback for them to hit that many threes in that stretch. They had to score fast.
Yep.
I thought that play that Vogel drew up out of the timeout to get AD the layup to give us the lead was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
That is a play that the Lakers have run a lot, especially in the half court where they put AD in the corner and then they have the guard go and screen for him in the corner. And they let AD make the decision whether to back cut, to curl cut,
Right.
or to pop out for a three. And we've seen him a couple times hit corner threes off of that action. He was not good like this game. Like he was like very up and down, I thought. And but I thought he locked in defensively after he gave that reverse layup up to he gave the reverse layup up to uh Embiid.
Yep.
He did a good job. Like he was making Embiid like have to work for plays and keeping him in front of him. But it was just a case of like too little, too late.
Mm.
Like you said, that last play, clearly they were trying to get a mismatch for Tobias. He got to his spot. I thought Caruso did a pretty good job staying with him. I don't know if Tobias pushed off a little bit to get some of that separation because it seemed like Caruso got pushed back when Tobias tried to get the separation on the fade and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But even without it would have been hard for Caruso to contest because Tobias has got like, I want to say like 5 inches on him or something like that. So all you can ask is for a fighting chance. And it seemed like the only guy that was playing very well through all 48 minutes was Braun. I'm glad to see that some stuff corrected itself. Mark was rough initially, and then he started playing really well against Embiid until Embiid started foul baiting, and
Mm-hmm.
that ended up being trouble. And then Schroeder was really rough first half for him, but he was much better in the second half. There's clearly something with confidence in his scoring right now that's kind of going through him, but we need him to score. Like Danny Green can't stay in front of him.
No.
And it seemed like there's a lot of times he was passing away out of it. When he really didn't need to. It's just like you're going to blow by whoever's guarding you if you get a first step on him. Like just
Yep.
trust it, and the Lakers trust you. And I'm glad that the Lakers kind of forced the ball back to him in the second half to make him have to score. Because I thought he was trying to get away with just kind of giving the ball up to LeBron and just hanging around and playing defense.
So you saw pretty much everything that I saw. Schroeder was really bad in that first half, and I just felt like Danny Green can't stay in front of him. There's just no reason why he can't go to the basket. I know Embiid is down there, and he can challenge your shots and block your shots, but like Danny Green can do nothing with Dennis Schroeder when he crosses over or when he decides just to go do a straight line to the basket. It was great to see him kind of get into that mode in the second half of the game and be more of a scoring option for the Lakers. Anthony Davis, he has these games this year, man, where he's just kind of like going through the motions. And
Yeah.
Embiid's one of the best players in the NBA. He's he's not better than Anthony Davis in terms. I don't think he's a better big man than Anthony Davis, but tonight he looked like he was the better big man on the floor. And to me, when you come into these heavyweight matchups, if you will, the two number one teams in the league, Anthony Davis and Joel Embiid, two best bigs in the league, like you can't finish with 23 points. Like I mean, you need to throw up a 30 spot, man. Like we need to see more
Hmm.
out of you, especially when you weren't getting a lot from everybody else, not named LeBron, right? So
Hmm.
like the Lakers, they were down 14 points, and even before that, I just said, "Yep, they don't have it tonight." Like they could never just get over the hump. Um, but one thing that I kept in my mind, well, two things I kept in my mind. One, I never thought they would go undefeated on this road trip. Like at some point, they were going to take a
Hmm.
loss. You know, they'd beaten the Bucks, and so they beat the Cavs, the Bulls. Like at some point, they were going to take an L, and so that's going to happen. There's to me, there you don't take too much from this game, win or lose. But then just beyond like me knowing they were going to take a loss at some point,
Yeah.
they're still the one team, man, that hasn't like just gotten their asses whipped, right? Like just haven't
Yeah, they
completely
haven't.
gotten blown out. And that's something that says something about this team's ability to fight back, regardless if they win or not. To see them keep fighting back, but then also, like they shot horribly from three all game. Like if they had a typical Lakers shooting, for this season, a typical Lakers shooting night, they're up
Hmm.
10 points. They were missing free
Hmm.
throws. Like they were just they weren't having a typical Lakers game. So they were fortunate enough to
And
even they were fortunate enough to be able to fight back in this game.
yeah, I mean, it seemed like up until Caruso and Schroeder hit those back-to-back threes, like it seemed like it was going to they were going to be in trouble. Like they were going to lose like a 15-point game or something like that. They were just exchanging shots with the other team. They couldn't get a defensive stop. They couldn't do anything like that. So I thought that was definitely an issue. Um, it I think you're right. One of the positive takeaways from this is that they did scrap back. Like this would have been a game for sure last season where they would have just packed it away. I think Vogel actually thought this game was over when he put LeBron to the bench at like
In
the
the
5 minute
5 minute
mark.
mark, yep.
Yeah, I was like, I think Vogel's putting Vogel's having LeBron sit down for the rest of the game, and then they hit two threes. They cut it to like 9 or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and then they're like, oh, okay, hold on, let me.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Did you catch my last few sentences?
No. What was the last part?
Oh no, them locking in on the defensive end, even for a short period of time, like it's pretty like it just gives you an idea of how good they can be if they can keep it together. And I think the reason why they were missing those free throws and 3 pointers is just it was like the flow of the game was so bad. I don't even know how they developed any sort of rhythm. I'm even surprised they made those threes, like the KCP three that he made at the end. Like I was like, this is definitely not going in because he like kind of double pumped it. I don't know why. Like it's not like Seth Curry was going to block him or something like that. But but they made a comeback and they gave themselves a chance and they took the lead. Like in the last couple of possessions of the game after playing probably cutting it to 4, going down by 12, cutting it to 6, going down by 15. Like they're playing uphill the entire game. So I'm glad that they kind of figured it out and they were able to battle back. It's a testament to the kind of team that this is, and they'll scrap for whatever they need to.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised that Dennis hit that three at the end. Like I
Mm-hmm.
was, he shorts a lot of his threes. It was a huge shot. KCP kind of taking a step to the side, knocking down his three, and Alex obviously hit his three. Like they caught fire out of nowhere because they were just shooting so
Mm-hmm.
poorly all game, and I don't know. It's hard sometimes to read these Lakers, man. Like obviously they're one of the most talented teams in the NBA from top to bottom. But some of these games, it just feels like how bad do they want it? Like it's almost as if they know they're really really talented, and so it's
Yeah.
kind of like, do they just kind of go through the motions and then think they're going to turn it on? And you and I reference Shaq and Kobe, like the three-peat Lakers a lot, and that was always a big thing with them where they thought they could just turn it on also. So I wonder if that
Hmm.
that has something to do with it, but I give them a lot of credit, man. Like they fought back. Like like to your point, when LeBron went to the bench at the 5 minute mark, I said to myself like, okay,
It's
LeBron's
game.
sitting, game's
Yeah.
over, and he came back in and they fought. I mean, look, Philly won tonight. Last year, I was at the game in Philadelphia. They beat the Lakers that night, and we saw how the season ended. Right, so Philly's a really good team. I am wondering, you don't want to overreact to one game, but like the Tobias shot, right? Like at some point, do they still need one more bigger wing? Like because if whoever was on him, KCP
Hmm.
or Caruso, they were never going to be big enough to defend him. So do they need somebody else?
I think they probably would switch up coverages if this ever had to happen again. One of the things that we have to also remember is that we trust Caruso, right? Also to be like a really good defender too. So it's not fair. I think it's not fair for us to say like, oh, we have to like um, swap him out of the lineup because he was part of the, he's part of the comeback. He's part of the guy who was one of the guys who played good defense. He hit a huge three and stuff like that. Some people I would say on Twitter right now are probably saying that he needs more minutes because he didn't really play very many minutes tonight. And I don't think that's because Vogel doesn't trust him or something. I think Vogel is running lineups and testing out lineups to see what's effective and to eventually get to a certain point. Like in the first half, that all forwards lineup that had Markieff and Trez was not good. The first shift that they ran, but in the second half, that shift was better. Like that second half was actually the one where they ran that lineup and they actually brought the game. They cut the game very very close. So it's like there's a tale of like there's clearly different things happening with different shifts in different halves with different looks and at different points of the game. And I think the Lakers are trying to figure that part out. But we'll have losses like this. These close. It's always annoying when you lose close games, but we'll have stuff like this happen. It's just a matter of like learning from the process and kind of moving forward from there. So it's just I think probably the thing that the Lakers would probably take away from this is whatever is bugging Anthony Davis and he's going up and down and stuff like that with the way he's playing, like he's got to figure it out, man. Like we can't have you going through these games. Like if you need to sit down, like you know, go ahead and sit down. Or if you need to, like take a break longer during games or something like that, then go ahead and do that too. Like it really doesn't matter. But we need a little bit more consistency out of him, both offensively and defensively, from a game to game basis. He can't just chill out when the rest of the team is rolling. He's got to be involved in some form.
So what did you think about Trez, man? Like he threw up a goose egg tonight, and when Vogel had him playing against Embiid, I kind of felt like Vogel kind of threw him out there like the Clippers would throw him up against Jokic or somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Like he clearly was outmatched against Embiid, and Mark had picked up those fouls. I'm glad
Mm-hmm.
that Anthony Davis guarded Joel kind of down the stretch. That was
Mm-hmm.
positive to see. But what about that part? Like if Mark is out or he can't, he's not guarding the guy, and AD's not guarding him. I don't know, man. Like Trez couldn't do much with Anthony Davis, especially if Trez isn't scoring. He himself isn't scoring. If he's not contributing on the offensive end, and he's giving up a few baskets on the defensive end,
Mm-hmm.
then I mean, then what do you do with that?
Yeah, I think Doc Rivers' game plan, which has sort of been the same game plan that he's always the defensive style that he plays with the Clippers, is he wanted LeBron to be the guy to do everything for the team.
Yeah.
He wasn't allowing anybody else to really get loose. Like all of our shooters were being blanketed. Um, they were multiple guys would swipe at 80s drives. It felt a lot like the defense that the Clippers would play against the Lakers. And because we have a new roster of guys,
Mm-hmm.
we have to figure it out. And I think you saw the difference in adjustments with what Schroeder did the next in the second half. Like the stuff that Schroeder was doing in the second half, I think if he had done it in the if he had done it in the first half, I think the Lakers probably win this game. And I think that's something that Schroeder has to learn. Um, in regards to like Montrez's usage, I think Vogel is still going to like run his regular rotations. Like we're not going to see playoff style adjustments in the regular season. Not for one game, not against Philly. Like we're just not. And this team has to learn. Like the only way that Trez is going to learn how to defend against a team like Philly or against a guy like Embiid is he has to be on the floor. And it just doesn't make sense that in the regular season we just say, "Oh, this is not going to be a good matchup for Trez. We're just not going to play him." Like it just doesn't make any sense to do that. Is it frustrating to watch? For sure, but it would be worse for the human element of everything if he just outright just benched him and didn't play him. Because you don't want something like that to happen either. Same thing with Markieff. Markieff hasn't been like that great. He's been good in like very spot moments and stuff like that. So I thought I think that was a little bit of an issue. I was surprised that THT got run before Caruso in the first half, but he did score. It was necessary that we needed somebody to score. He had a couple good plays, but there's clearly something up with like the rotation. I think some of it also has to do with not only him trying to get guys minutes, but it's an injury thing too. Like the way Caruso plays defense, he gets hurt a lot. The same way Bradley would, because he's cutting taking these hardcore angles and stuff like that, and so. Maybe Frank wanted to kind of limit. Maybe Caruso took a beating from the few games prior, and Frank wanted to give him some rest if he could survive with THT minutes and stuff like that. So I don't take it as he doesn't trust. Whenever he doesn't play Caruso more minutes, I don't take it as I don't take it like he doesn't trust Caruso. I take it more like there's probably something up. Like he's trying to make sure he stays healthy and stuff like that. Like, and he's trying to fit in West. He's trying to fit in THT. He's trying to fit in Schroeder and all that kind of stuff too. So that's the way I kind of think of how he uses these rotations. We're not going to see a playoff rotation in the regular season. We're just not. It's not going to happen. This is the regular season for the Lakers is purely running the motions to some degree, some minor adjustments, and the goal is to figure out what lineups work and what lineups don't, and what changes we may need to make at the deadline when the time comes. So that's the way that I would see it. But look, I'm happy that they scrapped, man. I'm happy that they came back and they fought back because that does mean something. It wasn't Braun, okay? It wasn't Braun and AD doing the work. It was our other guys. So role guys that needed to step up this game that after they played poorly in the first half. Those are the guys that stepped up, and you could see. For Philly, their role guys stepped up. Danny Green, as we expected, decided to return to becoming regular Danny Green. Tobias had a bunch of, Tobias scored a bunch of points. They had small contributions, but important contributions from their bench guys. Like when you play against a real playoff contender, it's never about the stars because the coaching staffs and the stars will always like kind of balance out to some degree, right? Like the scoring will get balanced out and the coaching staff will scheme defensively to slow down your stars. It always comes down to role players. And I'm just glad that the Lakers role players found a shooting groove and stuff like that towards the end of the game. So hopefully that carries over into the next game. But 10-1 is nothing to be like, that's a fantastic road record to have. So I don't mind that at all.
Well, so to your point about it not being LeBron, kind of bringing us back in this game, I think that's positive, man, because we know LeBron can get you back into a game, and he largely kept the Lakers in this game all night. But
yeah,
it's one thing when LeBron or Anthony Davis gets hot at the end of the game, and they're the reason why. I mean, we want that. We want those guys to do things like that. But like to see the other guys finally catch a rhythm, to see them get some defensive stops, I think that bodes well for the team's confidence long term. I mean, I don't think the team really worries so much about confidence, but just as this new season unfolds, it was good to see the other guys pick it up. And Dennis has kind of struggled off and on these last few games, and it was good to see him catch a groove in the second half of this game. I still wonder. So he started the season off kind of fast, and everyone was surprised at how good Dennis was. And then he kind of had a few up and down games. It's like he's probably still trying to figure out his role on the team and when he should go full bore and go ahead and score, when he should distribute, when he should defer to LeBron and Anthony Davis. I think he's trying to figure all of that out. Frank is probably trying to figure that part out as well. But this was a game where I just felt like if the Lakers had a normal game, they win this game. Like there was nothing Philly did to me
Mm-hmm.
that would say if this was a 7 game series, the Lakers couldn't win against Philadelphia if this was the finals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and look, they were drawing fouls like at an absurd rate at one point,
Yeah.
like in the first half. Like I was like, bro, every time we come down, we're getting called for a foul. Even um, towards the end of the game, the box out play that Ben Simmons drew a foul on, where he just jumped up in the air and then fell down. I'm like, what is going on? Like what? Like he's not even positioned to get the ball. Like and it's stuff like that's super annoying. They call the flagrant on Braun when it's like, all right, I'm pretty sure this is not flagrant. This is a little bit, a little bit of acting and stuff like that. Like Frank had to get that technical foul. Like people are like, oh, why is Frank getting a technical foul in such a clutch moment? Like he had to, dude. It's like at some point I was like, bro, this is getting outrageous. Like the way that they're making these calls, we can't play any sort of defense without you guys calling a foul every single time. And it, the Sixers players, to their credit, were they were creating the collisions, which is good. Like that you want your offensive players to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought there was a lot of plays where the Lakers were just playing defense. There's and we couldn't get any 50-50 calls going our way. So I think we got a call coming in.
We do. Let's see who this is. What's going on, man? You guys are on with LakerCentral. Guess they got stage fright.
Stage fright. But yeah, it's it was good to hear. It was good to see them battle back with the role players. It was a weird rhythm game, really weird rhythm game, and I think it genuinely took them out of rhythm. But this is a Doc Rivers coach team. This is what Doc Rivers coach teams do. When they can't make shots, they are going to foul bait so they can get to the line. If you go watch what Paul George and Kawhi were doing last season, they were doing that all regular season last season. But that stuff does not work in the playoffs because the refs don't give you that anymore. And that's why guys who do the foul baiting and stuff like that and rely on it in the regular season tend to play much worse when the playoffs come around because they don't get those calls. And, it was a pain today to watch. It was painful to watch to some degree. But, they battled back. I can't really. We were in a position to win that game. And it basically took a game winner from the Sixers. It took a collapse and then a I wouldn't say Hail Mary, but, like a game winner basically for them to win that game. So, and the Lakers didn't play well for, I would say, 3 quarters of basketball. So that should tell you something. If we can play that badly for 3 quarters and maybe not even 3 quarters, I'd say like 3.5 quarters of basketball, that was not good. And we can still win a game. So that, again, we've talked about it before. That's the margin of error that the Lakers have.
Yep.
That's how big their margin of error is. But I'd like to see some consistency from AD. Like it's at first I was like, all right, I get it. Like you're coasting a little bit and stuff like that. You turned it on for Chicago and then take it easy. It's like, all right, man. Like we can't keep doing this. Like at some point, my concern goes from being, you're taking it easy to turning to not like this is becoming a bad habit. And I don't want your teammates seeing that because they're trying. Caruso is trying to win that game. KCP, Schroeder, they're trying to hustle and win that game. So we need that sort of effort from him. But he did hit some big shots. He played some good defense down the stretch, and that's all we can ask. So I'm glad that they scrapped. That's really that's the main thing I'll take away from this. That our margin of error is still as big as I thought it was. That they can play this badly through 3.5 quarters and still have a chance and actually just take a lead and have a chance to basically win it in the last couple of possessions.
Well, I think the thing about AD, to your point, is that, look, if he's going to have these games where he's really dominant one game and then he kind of, goes with the win the next game, I think that his teammates don't know how they're supposed to play from night to night. And I think that's where things get really confusing. Like he needs to be way more consistent at this point. I mean, we're about a quarter of the season, we're a percent of the season already through. Like he can't just float. He's too good of a player to just float. And I do recognize that shortest offseason in sports history, this was certainly his first time on a championship run. LeBron has been there, done that already. Sometimes it's different for these guys when they finally get to the mountaintop, but he's been one of the best players in the NBA since he got in the league. And now that he has a ring, like there's additional responsibility that comes with having a championship ring. Like you don't just get your ring as a superstar and then you kind of fade off into the glory mode. Like he needs to bring it every night. I recognize that he's got to work himself back in. I get that part. But against these other premier players in the league, other premier players, premier games, he needs to show up. Like playing well against Chicago, I get it. That's your hometown or whatever. But Chicago has nobody on his level.
Mm-hmm.
Like I need to see you play well against the Clippers, the Bucks, 76ers, the Celtics
Mm-hmm.
coming up on Saturday. Like those are the games because look, we play the Pistons tomorrow, right? And I suspect the Lakers will have no problems winning that game. But if AD dominates against the Pistons and then goes into Boston and kind of has an 18-point game, 7 rebounds, at
Mm-hmm.
that point, man, it's like, yo, what are you doing?
Yeah, what's going on? Yeah.
Yeah, is there something else that we just don't know about? Like, what's going on? Because at this point, you played enough where you should be in shape. Like, the core of the team and what they want to do, you should already know. But I just think that when he comes in and he's like up and down, the other guys don't know how much heavy lifting they need to do, and that just throws
Mm-hmm.
everybody's rhythm off.
Yeah, it's. I think the role players are always going to play the way that we expect them to play. Like they're going to play off of LeBron and Anthony Davis. So if LeBron, like at the beginning of the first quarter, LeBron had it going. Like
Yeah.
he was running the give and goes with Gasol. So it's like I can't be that mad at Schroeder because Schroeder was watching LeBron get layups the entire game. So if Philly is keeping everybody else covered and letting Braun get to the lane the way that they are, you can't really be mad at it. But it does come at a cost, right?
Right.
That's sort of the thing that I'm talking about. Like when I say Embiid does the foul baiting and stuff like that, and in his isolation play, and then he doesn't get it. That's the kind of stuff that takes you out of rhythm. Like watching the same guy come down multiple plays, do nonsense, and it just takes your whole team out of rhythm. So I'm not saying that Braun took us out of rhythm, but like the team was clearly playing based off of what he was doing.
Right.
And I trust that, like, if this had to be a 7-game series and they had to lose the game like in this manner, I would expect them to win like the next 4 games. Like there's a lot of correctable issues that from this game and non-repetitive mistakes outside of like the effort part that I think that the Lakers could easily make lineup adjustments.
I agree.
Like minimizing the all forwards lineup, minimizing Montrez's minutes without a big next to him. Like maybe instead of just doing Montrez on an island, like maybe trying to stagger Gasol in a way where Montrez and Gasol are on the floor together and stuff like that. So it's just stuff like that, I would imagine that this team would get very, very creative in doing different things. But it was just like, because of the foul calling and stuff like that, I just felt like every time that they had some momentum, it would just kind of go to junk because there'd be all this like random fouling that would happen afterwards. But, give credit to the Sixers. They played their game. They played the way that they did. They wanted to. They continued to attack the rim. They continued to draw fouls. And if the refs are calling it, the refs are calling it. So we can't complain about I can't complain about another team doing what they do. Because if the Lakers were doing that and they were getting those calls, I wouldn't be complaining about it. So I'm just glad that they continue to battle. It's kind of I don't think like I feel like last season. If we were in that situation with 5 minutes left, I would have just been like, this game's done. Like we don't even have the offensive firepower outside of LeBron and AD to make this kind of comeback. But like you can see it, like when Schroeder is when Schroeder is rolling, like he's hard to defend, man. This team is really, really hard to defend, and it gives LeBron a lot of breaks. So I just even outside of AD, I hope Schroeder, like whatever he's going through, this funk that he's going through, like I hope he like breaks out of it, because I feel like he could be like even these lineups where he's playing with AD and LeBron, it almost feels like LeBron to some degree wants him to be the guy that scores, but because he's giving it up and trying to play off of LeBron, it's I think he's still figuring that out. He's trying to figure out, how do I balance my scoring aptitude versus giving the ball up to LeBron. And I think today Braun had it going in the first half. He put up like 22 in the first half or something like that, and that's why he was a little bit more hesitant. But that second half, that third quarter, there was a lot of plays where he gave the ball up to LeBron and AD, and they gave it right back to him. And it almost seemed like they were saying, like, nope, you're shooting this ball, like this play. Like we're not, like neither of us are going to shoot this ball. you're going to have to go and score for this team. And if you don't score, then whatever. But you're going to have to be aggressive yourself. And he came through. But I think he needs to, I think he needs to trust himself. He needs to trust his ability to get to the rim and all that sort of stuff.
I mean, I think if Philadelphia was being honest, they would say they're lucky they won this game. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
they were up, they blew a big lead, and the way things were rolling those last few minutes, the Lakers could have won this game. And I just
Mm-hmm.
Tobias hit a big shot, but we know how those things work, man. Most of the time you miss those shots. Like guys, even the greatest of the greatest, guys like Kobe don't always make those shots. And so he hits that shot, and now, Lakers fans are upset, Philly fans are happy, but that shot comes short. And now we're having there's a lot of people having a different conversation. So
Yeah, absolutely.
the Lakers, I was frustrated, watching this game. Most of the game I was standing up watching. I'm just like, I kept throwing my hands up, like, here these
Yeah,
guys go. Like, this is a big time game. Everybody's watching. But you know what? Like, just a few nights ago, they beat the Bucks, handily.
yeah,
Like, they didn't look
yeah.
like they were, they couldn't beat them. And so I don't know. It's just, what are you going to do? Like, it's just, maybe this is just a night that they were off or whatever. And
Yeah,
they
and
recognize
it
that there are
is a
correctable things.
and it is a back to back. They got another game against Detroit. I think coming up tomorrow. So it's just they gave themselves a chance to win. So like that could have been the reason why Frank didn't play Caruso that much because he knows it's a back to back. So he knows that he's going to have to dip into his minutes. They may have scouted ahead of time and said, okay, well Detroit likes to run more guards and they like to run forwards. So we may see Caruso and THT and all these guys get way more extended minutes for the back to back and stuff like that. So I'm not going to say it's a tough loss. It's an annoying loss because of the way that we lost because we had a lead and it was basically a game winner. But I think you're right. Like if Tobias doesn't hit that, if Harris doesn't hit that jumper, like we're having a completely different conversation in regards to where it is. And in a series, I'm not worried about this team. Like one of the things that's always concerned me about the Sixers is that they overachieve in the regular season. And then every single time they go into the postseason, it's just teams have scouted out what they want to do. Like, I'm pretty sure if we had to play this team again, we're not letting Ben Simmons score like his first 10 points on just transition layups where nobody picks him up. These are small things that we would correct in a series that I know that would not happen. Like, they happen in a regular season game, but like I know that they're not. It's just not going to happen in a series. And so. I'm not too worried about this team. I don't know if sports media is going to make a big deal out of it. They may not, but the margin of error is still there. When this Lakers team is locked in, like fully locked in, even hit shooting like the first half they shot 1 for 11, so they shot like below average from three. So
Right.
they didn't even shoot like league average. They shoot league average from three. These games are probably going to be blowouts. They're not going to be. They won't be close games like this. So. I would like to see some more consistency out of AD on something, offense, defense, on some end, a little bit more consistency or a little bit more hustle because I'm not quite fully in the boat that now it's becoming a habitual annoyance, but it's starting to get real close to that area. It's like, all right, man, like we can't keep doing this where like you only show up for the big games or you only show up for the fourth quarter of big games, that sort of thing. So, that's the way I kind of see it. I'm not going to take too much away from this game other than I'm glad to see that the role players kind of found their shooting stroke. I hope it carries over into Detroit tomorrow and they have a good game because Detroit's got a good, they've got a competitive team. I wouldn't say they have a very talented team, but they're certainly competitive. And so I hope the Lakers are up and ready for that. And, we just continue on. That game against the Celtics is going to be a big game. No matter just bragging rights, Lakers versus, LA versus Boston. So
Right.
It'll be important for us, for AD to be ready for that game and to get in a good groove shooting wise for that game too, as well.
Well, it's important, man. I mean, look, even though we beefed the roster up this year, like the Lakers clearly need him to be Anthony Davis. Like
Mm-hmm.
he can't be anything less than that. And I pulled up his game logs. I mean, 17. He had 17 against Cleveland, 37 against Chicago, then 18 against Milwaukee, 17, 17, 18, 19. Then he had 27 against Houston. Like, he's got way too many games, man, where he's just under 20 points for a guy that could easily
Mm-hmm.
throw up a 30 spot. But not only that, um, his rebounding too, man. Like that, he's only had 2 double-digit rebounding games in like the last 8 or 9 games.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is a guy that averages like what for his career, what like 27 and 12 or something. I mean,
Yeah.
he just I don't know how look. I don't know how much time you give him to kind of like is this going to be what he is all season, or is he going to finally wake up and turn it on? I don't know how long we give him, but I think that we'll learn something through this road trip because it's a long road trip. You're playing really good teams. He needs
Mm-hmm.
to show up. He didn't have a great game against the Bucks, but we won. I think he did enough to help us win. We lost
Mm-hmm.
tonight. Again, the Celtics coming up. If he has another one of those kind of lackadaisical games, the talk is going to get louder. Like it's going to get really
Yeah.
loud. And there was a lot of conversation around him in New Orleans. He couldn't be the guy, and
Mm-hmm.
he had huge numbers in New Orleans, and we saw him in the finals with the Lakers. Like he clearly went to another level in the finals. But those same people who said, "Look, he's not an alpha. He's not this. He's not that." They're going to
Mm-hmm.
start chirping again, and he's got to figure out like is his head completely in this? Like, did he get a championship? He got his extension, and now he's going to kind of just float a little bit.
Sure.
But there's no way he can just float when the guy next to you is in year 18 and he's still playing as hard as he's playing. Even though LeBron does take plays off and stuff, LeBron is still
Mm-hmm.
bringing it for the most part in year 18. And if
Yeah.
he's doing it,
Yeah.
Anthony Davis needs to be doing it.
Yeah, I agree, and I think some of that conversation for him he needs to sit down and have a conversation with Schroeder. I think he needs to tell him that like like we brought in Schroeder to work with Anthony Davis and kind of like be a better have better lineups when it's not when LeBron isn't on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And for the first part of the season, I would say that like through the first 10 games, those minutes were actually pretty good. The Anthony Davis minutes without LeBron and stuff like that. Because Schroeder was rolling on the offensive end. But I think one of the things that's kind of slowed this down again is, if his partner in crime or whoever the other offensive guy on the court isn't playing very well offensively and stuff like that. So that's also part of the reason why I keep mentioning Schroeder. Like, I know Anthony Davis needs to improve, but at the same time, we also need the other guys to improve. Like it's we do see games where Montrez takes over and stuff like that. But you're right, like be doing it to the Bulls, doing it to the Pistons. That's that's okay. That's great. I mean, Montrez had a good game against the Bucks. He had some really good isolation plays on mismatches against the Bucks guards on switches and stuff like that, where he both defended very well and he was able to score over them.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't complain about that. I'm happy that he did that. He's doing what we expect him to do. But he's a role player. That's what we're paying him for. That's what we expect out of those guys. And when your role players aren't playing well, our star has to come through to some degree or kind of force the issue and create for his teammates and stuff like that. So I'd like to see him be better when LeBron is on the floor. But, as I said at the end of every single answer, I'm glad that they were able to battle back. I really, really love the fact that they were able to get a wide open look for Anthony Davis off of that time. I cannot understate how good that play is. Teams do not know how to defend that play. They have run it multiple times in some of these other games and stuff like that. They've sprinkled it in here and there, and teams legitimately do not know how to defend AD. They don't know whether to cut off the lane. They don't know if he's going to stop and take that corner three. He's even attacked it from the baseline for a back cut for a layup. You're talking about a 6'11" guy, coming off of a screen by a small guard. That is a really good play, and it won't surprise me that if they start running that a little bit more. But there was a lot of small pockets of things that were really good to see. The giving Gasol plays with Braun and Gasol is fantastic. Like when people are face guarding Braun, it's just a wide open back cut for him. Gasol was hitting him every single time. There was another one where Gasol threw like a long bounce pass to Braun. I don't think Braun was ready for it because it just like hit his hand and went right out of bounds.
Yep.
That would have been another layup. Like it's very, very clear. I also like the Gasol matchup for Embiid because I don't think the rip through pull up fouls and stuff like that Embiid was getting at the beginning of the game. I think those are the plays that he needs to be able to get in order to get Gasol off the floor, or else Gasol's not leaving the floor against him. He's standing outright. He's not putting his hands down to slap down on him. Like I thought that if Embiid hadn't like done like the first one he got, he like literally ran into Gasol and then went up like this,
Mm-hmm.
and Gasol's hands were like down, like in a position where I don't even know how you would call that, but um like that's just a play that it ended up being successful. His defensive play was successful. I like the Lakers' chances with Gasol against Embiid in the long run. I don't think Embiid's going to overwhelm Gasol like that, um, uh, the way people think. So it was a shaky start for him because of the fouling, but I thought he kind of locked in. I saw Embiid miss a lot of jumpers. Like when he had to settle for jumpers and he couldn't draw fouls,
Mm-hmm.
like he had to settle for a lot of jumpers. And towards the end of that game, um, he was almost. I don't know about you, but like after he got the reverse layup, he like literally legit did nothing. I didn't see him do anything on the offensive end for that team. Um, and I didn't see Ben Simmons do anything for that team at the end either. And I think that's maybe that why they went to Tobias, because they were like, all right,
Yeah.
Embiid can't even hold on to the ball. Simmons is not a shooting threat, so we got to give it to the third guy, which was Tobias. So I'll take my chances. Like I'll take my chances against that lineup. Um, I wonder if next time maybe Frank, because it was a timeout and that shot by Tobias was out of a timeout, he does switch it out. Maybe he doesn't put Caruso when he sees the lineup. He puts a bigger guy out there, maybe, or he switches the assignment. Like he'll put like Caruso on like Ben Simmons, like somebody who can't shoot, like Ben
Right.
Simmons or something like that, and put like AD on Tobias, and then or sorry, AD stays on
Embiid.
Embiid, and then Bronze. But I think that's why they ran the what's it called, that screenplay, because they wanted the switch. They wanted to see if the Lakers would switch it. So I don't mind it at all. I thought the Lakers were in a great position to win, and I don't think that was an easy shot for Tobias either. So I really don't mind. They had it scored in like how many possessions up until that point?
The Lakers were on like a 13-0 run, I think.
Yeah.
Something
So
like
it's like
that.
so there's at least what 4 or 5 plays in a row that they didn't
Mm-hmm.
score. So I have no issues with that. That I would say that the Sixers probably went into the locker room thinking that they may have dodged a huge bullet with that Lakers comeback. So I think the Lakers probably feel a little bit better about themselves, uh, more than like the Sixers probably do about how they close that game out, and like carrying the momentum into the next game and the next time they play each other and stuff like that.
No, I think that's fair. I mean, look, all the foul baiting. Embiid did a lot of damage at the line. I think he shot like 13 free throws. You clean up
Mm-hmm.
some of those fouls, he doesn't have the game that he had. He did have 5 turnovers. So, to your point earlier as well, he had butterfingers a bit. And then the Lakers ran it. All I take away from this game is they fought back, and
Mm-hmm.
they still remain one of those teams that haven't taken this massive L yet this season. And I think on that play that they ran for AD. So when Schroeder screens Embiid's, he's a great player. He's a great defender, but like he's just still too big. He's not quick enough to get around that screen and
Oh
keep
yeah.
up with Anthony
Right.
Davis. Like that's what separates Anthony Davis from pretty much every other big man in the NBA. No one's going to
Mm-hmm.
be able to keep up with him, regardless if he goes to the basket or if he steps out and takes a three or whatever. Like he can do whatever he wants. And I think to your point, that's why teams don't know how to defend it because he's a unicorn, man. He can score at all three
Mm-hmm.
levels, but that was a hell of a play. Like I'm glad he made the play. I'm glad he made the basket. It was a smart call. We came up short tonight, and I'm not gonna lose any sleep over it. Like we got another game tomorrow and a big game against the Celtics on Saturday. Like
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lose any sleep.
Yeah. It's not. This is just kind of the pangs, or we I guess we, because of the baseball series style games, like we haven't like really had too many big games because we've been playing like everybody like twice in a row and stuff like
Right.
that. So um I think we'll be fine. I'm not too worried about the offense. The individual efforts of some of the guys needs to be a little bit better. And then, like for a guy like Schroeder, it's not even the effort because he's doing really well on the defensive end. It's just he's got to break out of whatever that shooting funk that he's in. And so I hope that second half helped unlock a little bit for him because he was getting some really good quality layups in traffic and stuff like that too.
No, I agree. I want to see him aggressive against the Pistons, and more than anything, man, I want to see all these guys with their heads in the game against the Celtics on Saturday. Like
Yeah.
win or lose, that single game is not going to have a huge impact on the season or any impact really, but it's a big time rivalry. Everybody will be watching. Bragging rights for Lakers fans and or Celtics
Yeah.
fans, whoever ends up coming out on top. So, there's a lot going on in that game. So I want to see them come out. But I think we'll close out on that, man. Anything you wanna add before we end the post game?
No, I as I said before, I wouldn't stress myself too much over this game. I do understand people's gripes and complaints about the rotation, but I think because it's a back to back, Vogel's trying to be careful. And look, this entire season, as we've said every single time, this entire season is going to be a big experiment to let these guys get used to it. They don't have practice time. They don't. All they do, everything they do is through film sessions. So all the stuff that they're talking about improving, it only happens on the court, and that's only if the team that they play against like falls into that, like that scheme or whatever that they're doing. So, um, you know, on to Detroit, and then the big game that we're circling is the Celtics, and
Mm-hmm.
it's one loss. They could very easily finish this road trip 6-1,
Yep.
and be only have one road loss on the season, which is pretty tremendous.
It's
Regardless,
crazy.
I mean the fact that we're it's a three-way tie for first place basically right now. So like these seedings and stuff like that, none of that stuff is going to matter. If anything, it should give players more or fans more confidence that the Lakers can go into hostile territory and win games. So even if they don't get a one seed this season, we don't have to worry about it. And maybe it's good. Maybe when the Lakers are on the road, it's better because guys like AD kind of get up for those games when they know there's like a lot on the line and you're in a
Mm-hmm.
hostile environment. A lot of players have said that they like playing on the road because it keeps them more focused because they know that nobody's on their side. So they're hyper focused about what's going on. So that's about it. Like you, I'm not going to stress it. And we'll go on to Detroit, and then I'm sure we'll be back discussing win or lose, whatever ends up happening with that game.
Guys, thank you as always for joining us for the post game. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube so you don't miss any of the pre and post game content. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple, Google, or Stitcher. Guys, don't get too worked up tonight on social media, Lakers Twitter. Don't let anybody get you riled up. We took an L. We're back at it again tomorrow, man. There are things we could have cleaned up, but again, don't overthink it. This team is still really, really good, and you got to see tonight just what their margin of error is. So, catch you guys tomorrow on the pre or post game, and then looking forward to a big game on Saturday against the Celtics, man. Thank you guys as always for watching Lakers Central.